without the village that I've created around me,
Yeah.
um, that process and that's how I process my pain is just talking through it and
Yes.
giving and being kind to myself, and
Ooh,
which is a hard concept for me.
yeah. Same.
I'm super hard on myself.
Yeah.
And I feel like God shows me a lot of grace. Life show, like even the individuals around me in my village show me a lot of grace, and
Mm.
it's grace that I sometimes don't show myself. So I'm trying to be a little bit more kinder to myself, but without this village that I've created and that we've cultivated together, um, processing that pain would be extremely, extremely difficult. I have my moments where I enjoy being alone
Yeah.
and processing some of those thoughts and feelings alone,
Yeah.
but man, you can't do this life shit is not meant to be done alone.
Welcome to the Tea On, where we typically sip tea and we talk about things that
Well,
matter.
this is not tea, but
It don't
sure.
need to be. It can be whatever you want. This is honestly water. We're just hydrating today. So
I
that,
drink I literally I drink a gallon of water every day, so I'm pretty hydrated.
I can tell by your
I'm pretty
glowing
I'm
skin.
I'm
I
pretty
can.
please. White people, we don't have the best skin, so I have to do everything I
Iconic.
can to preserve. I have to do everything I can.
As I just told you before we started recording, I'm just so grateful to share space and share energy with you today, especially just because I have been such a fan and such an awe of not even just your work and what you've created, but the way that you show up in the world and the way that you do so quite authentically
Thank
and
you.
quite boldly and loudly. I think it's very easy to tell when something is a facade and when something is true. And you are someone who I think embodies truth. So this is a
Thank you.
conversation that you're very welcome. A conversation I've wanted to have on my platform for a while. And I think that you are the perfect person to have it with.
Thank
So
you.
I'm gonna definitely give you the space to introduce yourself. But for those of you who don't know, this is Marcel Ledoux, also known as Ledoux and The Broken. And we were just talking about like the the fallacy that can come with titles, but just in an effort to explain the way that you show up in the world. You're a singer, songwriter, author, artist in many ways of it, and also just like a multi-dimensional being having a good time and exploring and just great
That's it.
authentic stuff. So go ahead and let the people know who you are.
I don't know how to not that it's about topping that, but yeah, like that's a pretty great explanation. I think even before any of those titles, yeah, my name is Marcel, also known as Ledoux and The Broken. But before any of those titles, I'm a human. I'm a flawed man that's just trying to navigate through the uncertainties of life. And the titles are given to me. The titles are earned. I'm really not focused on titles. I'm just trying to live the life the best way that I know how, by just learning through my experiences. That's
Yeah.
it. That's who I am. You know, some
Honestly,
people have other names for me: singer, songwriter, nice guy, asshole. Like all the titles. There's some titles in the world that you can't control that are given to you. So,
fuck.
however I'm perceived by the rest of the world, that's fine. It is what it is. Everybody's entitled to it. But to me, I'm just a flawed human, a flawed man that's just trying to figure shit out. That's it.
100%. Yeah, titles are definitely they're definitely relative, but just even
They
the
are,
fact,
and sometimes the titles can be a burden.
yes, oh
Sometimes
my God, they like
the
change
the
the dynamic.
responsibility, yeah, the responsibility that comes with a title is sometimes like, is it like burdensome, burdensome? Sure, whatever. Cool.
For sure, the
Yeah,
English language, definitely. I think
it's a burden. That's what we're trying to say.
it's a burden.
It's a
And like
burden.
it's a burden that's like self-imposed because you're like, I have now put this title on myself and I have to live up to it in every moment and
Yeah,
sometimes
no,
like
absolutely.
so yes,
Absolutely.
I love that we just like immediately address that, which I think honestly ties really well in with what we're talking about, right? Because I think that in itself is related to ego, and so much of what we're going to talk about today, which is kind of like how men express themselves through love and through vulnerability.
Hmm.
What serves as an obstacle in that is ego a lot of the times. And so before we even get into
Absolutely.
that, I think it was beautiful
Pride.
that, oh my God, the
Yeah.
way that when you do break yourself down and you consider yourself to be a flawed human being, I think in that and the ability to admit that which is something that I think is really unique about a lot of the ways that like men operate in society. Is really beautiful. So before we get into what we're actually going to converse about, I think it's worth noting that you have recently put out a piece of work that is just incredible and very, very honest and raw and vulnerable. Haikus about you. And I was able to read it, and it showed up in my life right on time. And there's like so many different things about it that I think is like really important to survey, but I think the most important is the way that it captures how we can grow and evolve through love and through the experience of love, and also inevitably the experience of heartbreak. And so I think the very first question that I want to ask you is, what is your process when it comes to coping and when it comes to processing? Because a lot of the times I think, especially societally, men can experience things and not evolve through them because they don't give themselves the space to process. It's kind of like it's one-dimensional view of how we relate to emotion, and they can kind of just like stay stagnant because they don't really know how else to relate to their emotions. So like, you know, when you're feeling, when you're experiencing, how do you cope? How do you process?
That's a loaded question. I'm gonna try and answer it as concise as possible because I am known to ramble. I feel like I could go as far back as just like my upbringing. For my most formative years, I was raised by the women in my life. My father got locked up when I was 14, and was locked up. When I say most formative years, for me, as a man, your most formative years are that age, that 13, 14 mark to like 21, 22. And I mean, obviously you're still growing beyond that. But to me, those are some extremely, extremely important years in a young man's life. And my father wasn't there for those important years for me. But even prior to that, just being exposed to just just very loving relationships. The way that my mother loved on me and supported anything that I wanted to do. Sometimes is to my detriment. Like I'll just be like, I'm not feeling this today. Let me try something else. So like I'm looking at how it affects me as an adult, but just my mom always just being very supportive and very loving, and having two younger sisters, and kind of being an older brother. And even now in hindsight, saying like, damn, like questioning if I was the best brother that I could have been. Even now, like, yo, how can I be a better brother? So my abuela, who's not with us anymore, I just always had a space to navigate through multiple things that I was feeling. I was never made, I never felt bad for how I felt, whether it was happy, whether it was sad, whether I was crying, I was never told grow up. I was never told be a man. I was never told any of these things that some men are told as they're growing up. I was never told those things. So I was always given the space to feel whatever it was that I felt. And to me, just like when you're raising a child, if there are no stigmas or boundaries created, to you, it's normal.
Right.
Whereas to others, if boundaries have been set in their upbringing and that's all they know, they're going to look at you like there's something wrong with you. And for me, that went a long way, especially as a young adult and now an adult, and how I process love and how I process pain and how I process heartbreak. For me, first, I look within. I look and say, okay, where did I fuck up in this situation?
Right.
Where could I have showed up a little bit more? Where could I have been a little bit more forthcoming? Where could I have communicated a little bit better? And then I look outward, whereas I feel like some people process, the opposite. They look outward and then come in. And then some just look outward and that's it. Like there's nothing wrong with me. It's y'all. Y'all are the problem. I know I'm good. And again, it just really truly depends. And then I think I've just surrounded myself with some straight shooters in terms of the men that I surround myself with, specifically the men. We've created a space where you know, I'm sure we'll get into this and we'll hear this term a lot in this conversation, but within my male friends and my close circle, we've created a space where vulnerability is not a weakness. Like we can be forthcoming with certain things, and even if we withhold certain things for a period of time, eventually those things could come out and we're not penalized for it, you know. So I truly believe it, you know, the same way that that we say it takes a village to raise a child. I think that term, it can be used for adults too, man. Like you never stop growing, and it truly takes a village to raise a person. And I've been blessed to have a beautiful village around me where it's depending on who's going through what, like it's interchangeable. Like you know, I might be going through something, the village comes to me and waters my garden, and then somebody in my village is going through something and we go over there and water their garden. It's just like, yo, it's we're not keeping score here. We all the human experience of life, we all deal with it and go through it differently, and we try to help each other process it as best as possible. I hope that answered your question, but just to give a more simpler answer, without the village that I've created around me, that process, and that's how I process my pain, is just talking through it and giving and being kind to myself, and which is a hard concept for me. I'm still
same.
I'm super hard on myself. And I feel like God shows me a lot of grace. Life show, like even the individuals around me in my village show me a lot of grace, and it's grace that I sometimes don't show myself. So I'm trying to be a little bit more kinder to myself, but without this village that I've created and that we've cultivated together, processing that pain would be extremely, extremely difficult. I have my moments where I enjoy being alone and processing some of those thoughts and feelings alone. But man, you can't do this life shit is not meant to be done alone. It's not at all.
No, I think there's nothing more beautiful than community and how it can heal you and teach you and mold you. And I think like human connection is kind of it. Like it's the reason, it's the purpose. And so I think that that's so beautiful. And it's also worth noting that like we are just products of what we ingest, what we surround ourselves with. And so I think what the role that you're playing in that is the fact that, the way to sort of change and shift the way that we function societally is to sort of embody that change. And I think by you sort of embracing your vulnerability out loud, you're giving permission for those that are watching you to do the same. And I think it's this ripple effect of authenticity. So thanks.
No, thank you. No, thank you. I jokingly say that we're adults just navigating through our childhood trauma.
100%.
That's all we are.
Inevitable, because if you're a flawed human being and you raise something, there's gonna be some mistake made at some points, which is kind of like being intentional with undoing it throughout.
Yeah, of course.
So
of course.
But a huge thing that I think is really important, like you said, is having like a sacred circle and having a safe space, especially with men, where you like you said, vulnerability is not a weakness, and it's sort of honored. And so I say that to say, do you ever find that when you are in different environments that you have to shapeshift a bit, or that you have to put up a certain boundary, or maybe that your language isn't understood at all?
I think maybe in some of my younger years, I felt like I had to be, I guess, more of a chameleon and kind of blend in. And I still think even within the whole blending in concept, based on who I was around or where I was, even within the blending in, there was still foundationally me, it's because I only know how to be me at my core, obviously,
Very Aquarius.
So it's just like, I think, depending on who I was around or where I was, maybe a little bit of shape shifting, but I wouldn't say so much to where I lost my identity. I think in certain romantic relationships, because I am such a pleaser, I've kind of lost myself in some of those relationships, and I've just tried to improve at, especially in the relationship that I'm in now with my partner. I've tried to be very, very firm in who I am, and I can't. This relationship can't be what I want it to be or what I expect it to be if I'm not whole within myself and understanding of the things that I want, so with that, and knowing my history of getting lost in relationships, just saying, hey, you don't have to be eye to eye on everything. It's okay to it's truly okay to be who you are. Like, and I'm big on compromising. I think compromise within any relationship, whether it's romantic, whether it's a friendship, whether it's platonic, compromise is extremely important. And I've always stood by, I'll compromise as much as I need to, as long as it does not affect my foundational beliefs and values. As long as it doesn't interfere with that, I'm down to compromise, because like that's how we grow. Like, we're given a perspective and you're like, oh shit, I never saw it that way. I try to always, no matter who I'm around, I just always try to especially now as an adult, now that I'm aware, I try to just remain as vigilant in my quest and who I am and who I'm trying to become as possible. And I hopefully people see the goodness in it. And if not, that's, what can I do?
Nothing to do with you. I love that. I think it's so important, especially when how we show up relationally, having a solid idea of self and having like a rooted foundation in who you are as far as your identity goes is so important if you ever want to engage or build something that is sustainable with anyone. I think it's fucking huge. And so speaking on love, right, because I think that's kind of like the premise of this whole thing, a beautiful thing that I kind of derived from your work was just like the connection between love and self-worth, and how if we experience any sort of like rejection outside of ourselves, that can immediately equate to how we feel about ourselves and how we value ourselves and how we deem our own worth. So how have you navigated sort of like solidifying your own self-worth outside of external relationships, so that when you do show up in them, that can't rock how you feel about yourself or how you identify?
How have I? That's a really good question. Man, the self-love and self-care process it can be a beautiful process, but it's also a very, very ugly one.
Oh, child.
I think it's, for me, I'm not going to say that my experience is more ugly than pretty. Right. And it just really took a lot of spending time alone and understanding the areas of life, the areas of being a man that I'm really, really good at, and understanding my strengths and my weaknesses, and knowing that, hey, just because I might not be equipped in this area of life doesn't mean that I'm not deserving of this. And just because I'm very well equipped in this area of life does not mean I'm better than an individual who's not. And just knowing that I have something to offer the world. On what scale and how many people I come in contact with is to be determined. But just knowing that, hey, no matter who I come in contact with, whether acquaintance, friendship, relationship, romantic relationship, like I have to be very confident and stand firmly in who I am, and just know that, hey, I have my strengths, I have my weaknesses just like anybody else, but you are who you are and you do have a lot to offer. So I took a lot of time to really understand myself and hold myself accountable. And there were nights where it got ugly. And it got lonely, and it got dark. And I think the important part of that process is you have to allow yourself to go through that. It's so funny. I guess there's this new term that is now I'm starting to see more frequently is toxic positivity.
I was
And
just talking about that today.
that shit is a real thing.
Yeah.
It's like as much as we want to be, if a friend of ours is going through something, as much we
Yeah.
want to be positive and we want to
Yeah.
uplift them and stuff like that. And that's natural. When you care about somebody, you want to naturally speak life into them.
Yeah.
But yo, sometimes life sucks for the day, and just let it suck for the day and allow it to suck for the day. And that's what I did, is I allowed life to suck. And I allowed my day to suck, whether I binge watched, whatever, whether I stress ate, whatever. I allowed these things to happen, but I had to know that, like, yo, this is what it is. And that's what I had to recognize, that this is what it is. So like, you know, even in my relationship now, I have to see that I'm an individual and complete in my own right. My girl is an individual and complete in her own right. We do not complete each other more, but we are building something that transcends beyond our physical form. You know what I'm saying? And I just have to stay rooted in that, you know, like, because I feel like once you start to look at somebody as, oh, they complete me, what happens if they're gone?
You're undone.
Like then what? And that's what's happened to me in the past. Is I've put so much into individuals, and I've used the terms that they complete me, and I started to believe it, and I started to see it, and essentially it became that. And then once they were removed from my life, like you said, I felt undone. I felt unraveled. I felt like I didn't know what the fuck to do. So I just knew, before I loved somebody else, I needed to love myself and be so rooted in who I am, flaws and all, that this individual will not complete me, and I don't expect to complete them. But I just need to know that I'm a beautiful individual on my own. You're a beautiful individual on your own, and we're just here to create something beautiful together, and that's it. And I think it's just just knowing that you have a lot to offer as an individual. I think we all do, you know? Oh
my God, you just spoke. I wish I could address like every gem that you just dropped, and I can't. So I'm gonna let it sit there, but I do want to address, because today I was literally writing about toxic positivity, and I think it's something really important to like shed light on, because people can approach healing with this one-dimensional view of what it is, and think that, you know, I don't know, I think we distract ourselves a lot, because in our stillness, we are kind of met with the good, the bad, and the ugly. And there's like this, we demonize very much any emotion that isn't happiness, when in actuality, I think feeling pain, feeling suffering, feeling anxiety, feeling depression, it deepens us, it molds us, it allows us to connect to each other deeper. And it's like, it's just the genetic makeup of like human experience.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, it can that darkness could take over, and it could get bad.
Yeah, of course.
And so you do need individuals around you that are optimistic and that mean well by you, and want to do well by you. Of course. So when you start to go down that slope, starts to get a little bit a little bit more slippery, a little bit more slippery than it usually does.
Yes.
They're there to support you and kind of be like an anchor for you. And
totally,
like to me, that the X factor in that is self-awareness.
Yes.
And self-accountability, and just knowing your patterns. Like I think sometimes as humans, we are creatures of habit, and we know our patterns, you know. And I think recognizing your pattern and knowing, like, yo, this is what this is. I know what's gonna happen. I need to, you know, allow it to happen, but this is where I need to change it.
But yes, building off of that, I think that's incredibly crucial, who you surround yourself by, and the language and the dialogue that is surrounding you externally and internally. And also, I think for me, assuming the role of the observer when it comes to my own emotion, knowing that what I am feeling is not me, it is simply something that I'm experiencing. I think when I went through those dark moments and continue to go through those dark moments, it's like, I don't allow it to consume me, because I recognize, like, okay, this is kind of a part of me that I need to feed and nourish right now, and give attention to, validate. but it isn't me, and I'm outside of this. So life is just a roller coaster. But thank you for
It
that.
is. It is.
Well fleshed answer. I think that was fucking incredible. And so the next thing that I
Thank you.
wanted to talk about was this idea that, especially the role that you've assumed in this world as a creative and a creator and somebody who kind of feels and expresses deeply with what you make and create in this world, there's like this thing known as like the vulnerability hangover. And so I say that to say, are there ever moments when you feel like, or rather, do you approach your vulnerability with any kind of boundaries? Like, is there only so much of yourself that you allow to give away? Because there can kind of be like a converse side to that, as far as like maybe being too open and too available, and thus you can absorb too much, you know?
No, that's such an amazing question. It's a conversation that I've had with my girl in the past, and because of COVID, I've not had conversations such as this. I've not performed live, so it's something I've really not addressed or even kind of thought about, really until you just asked this question. But it's something that I spoke to my girl about a while ago, is saying, hey, I pride myself on being vulnerable. I pride myself on being transparent in everything that I do, because I just feel like, one, it's me, but I also feel like people need to see that, hey, it's okay to be this. It's okay to be broken. It's okay to have baggage. Like, we're all fucked up. We're all fucked up in our own way. And so I do find strength in sharing some of my stories that have led to some of the songs that I've wrote, that have led to things such as the book. I can't say that I've experienced a vulnerability hangover yet, but it's something I'm like, I've spoken about in length with my girl, saying, hey, I'm trying to learn at how to be vulnerable and be transparent with the world and the audience that I'm presented with, because I think it is important for, you know, to be authentic in who I am. And it's important to show individuals that, hey, being vulnerable and transparent is it's a beautiful thing. But I truly want to save some for my girl. There are moments of intimacy. And I feel like, you know, I've not been met with the challenge or the problem where it's just like, okay, maybe I shared too much, or maybe I crossed the line. I've not been met with that. And I'm sure it's going to take an opportunity where I am met with that and I fuck up. And it wouldn't be like a huge fuck up. It would be like, damn, like, okay, this is where I could kind of reel it in a little bit. Because there are moments of transparency and vulnerability that I want the public to have access to, but I also want there to be moments that only my girl has access to, and that's a space that we share and we kind of have for ourselves, you know. So I think with time and experience, and there will probably be a learning curve, I'll get there, but I've not experienced like that that term, the vulnerability hangover yet. I've not experienced it yet. But I feel like just knowing me and just life, it's gonna come. It's gonna happen. It's inevitable.
Yeah, I mean, I wondered if it was even a conversation to have, because some people, I think some people don't even really, like you said, I think vulnerability is such a strength, and I think it's so embedded, like, just ultimately, I think, in your purpose. So I don't necessarily, you know, from the outside looking in, I don't even know if you would seem to be the person that would experience that, just because of, I think you still hold yourself together in it. But I think sometimes people can get lost in how much they share with the world, and sometimes it is important to kind of have that, like, that sacred space with yourself or with, you know, your partner.
Nah, it's you're spot on. It's something I'm definitely conscious of. Of oversharing publicly, socially, not sharing enough. What am I sharing? Am I intentional with what I'm sharing? It's definitely something that I think about frequently. So it's something that I feel like I'm still navigating through as I evolve as a person, as I evolve as a man, as I evolve as an artist. It's something that I'm you know, day to day navigating through and testing, you know, like in this thing that I did I do too much? Or in this thing that I did I do too little? Could I gave a little bit more, like I'm still testing it out and trying to figure it out. And I don't know if there's a wrong or right way. You know, I don't know. I mean, if there is, I'd love to hear it. I'm open to hear it, but I just don't know if there's a right or wrong way. I don't know if there's, I don't know if there is a thing as being too vulnerable. Like I hate that, that too, that I guess it's a pronoun, I guess you could call it. I feel like this is like a grammar
I know, right? We're like getting grammatical
session, right? But and it, like I don't know if things are too something. Like I think they just are what they are. Like and I always hated, I don't hate a lot of things, and I don't like using the term hate, but I hated when I was called or am called too emotional, because what does too emotional look like? You're either emotional or you're not emotional. What does too emotional look like? So I don't even know if there's a thing such as too vulnerable. I don't know. Maybe you're just vulnerable. You're not vulnerable. I don't know. It's to be honest with you, I feel like I'm exploring it right now live, and it's just like I'm like I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know if it's a thing. I don't know.
I like always accidentally turn conversations into therapy sessions, but I was just curious.
No, this is real life shit. Like damn, like is real. Such a thing? Like and I feel like there are individuals that could probably lend their perspective and their experience. Totally. Like you can be too vulnerable, and this is how you're too vulnerable, or I'm here for everything. And that's just, again, I'm open to hearing perspectives, because that's how your perspective changes. That's how you 100%. Grow as a person, when you're open to hearing what people think and their opinions based on their life experiences. So I'm here for whatever anybody has to say on being too vulnerable, you know?
You have to be receptive to evolve and to hear different perspectives on it. I think the way the conversation showed up kind of, and my individual experience is different, but I feel like I found myself sort of like unable to relate to people who couldn't have beyond surface level conversations with me, which I also realize I'm, entitled to, but I realized that I reached this space where like every conversation I have is to some degree like this. It's all about, my human experience and what I'm processing and it's like, sometimes I wonder, is there a part of me that should have access to like reverting back to like, are you enjoying that meal? Right. Sometimes I can almost dive too quickly.
When you share that example with me, I can say, based on the relationships with the individual that's in front of me, I have no problem being vulnerable and transparent. Right. I just know how much to share. Yeah. And when to kind of reel it in a little bit, so I think and that's a judgment call, right? Like it's just like, okay, is this a space where I can share a little bit more than I normally would, or should I just kind of keep it, be transparent and vulnerable, but keep it here, like keep it in this bubble here, like don't try to go outside of this bubble here, So I think that just ultimately comes down to instinct and knowing your surroundings and where you're at and who you're in front of and things of that nature. So I guess to come full circle, I think it just depends on who I'm in front of and the audience at hand, and knowing, okay, can I be more vulnerable than I normally am, or can I just kind of keep it here? So I think, again, instinctually, you know how to navigate, You're
totally led intuitively. Absolutely. It's all energy. So thank you for that. I love how we like met ourselves there.
I told you I could brag, I could talk. This is
same. I know, this is my forte. This is my bread and butter for sure. And I know you mentioned just like this idea of at some point how you disliked when people would, call you too sensitive or kind of put that label on you. And so I'm curious to dive into that, because one of the questions that I had for you was kind of like, what is your earliest memory of like challenging what societal norms deemed men should express and should look like and should speak like and sort of love? Do you have a memory when you kind of like realized that you processed differently and you showed up differently?
That's a tough question. I don't know if I could pinpoint a specific moment for that realization. I just remember being young and just looking at love differently, just looking at romance differently. I blame Boys to Men. I blame 90s R&B 100%. 90s R&B fucked my life up in the best way possible, because I was a total fucking lover boy from a young age, and fucking fuck you, Boys to Men, but thank you for everything. God damn it. I just knew that, man, I loved hard from a young age, and I just know I was different. I know I was into different things. And it's weird because at the same time I was into different things, but at the same time I did shit that normal boys did. You know what I'm saying? I'm using quotes. Like, I played the sports. I played football. I played basketball. I played baseball. Like, I did all the shit. But I knew there was a more sensitive side to who I was, and it was a little bit more emotional than maybe my peers. So I just kind of found spaces where I was accepted and celebrated. I think we all know, especially now, kids can be mean as fuck. And I think growing up, I wasn't celebrated in a lot of the spaces. And I just learned to go where I was accepted. And as I got older and I started to recognize these things within me, I noticed that I was accepted in different circles of different cultures, different backgrounds, different likes, different hobbies. And you know, in high school, I guess, you know, that's the last I guess hoorah of like social experimenting as a teenager. I noticed that I could go to this group who was into this, and I could go to this group who was into this, and I was navigating through so many different groups. And I think because I just was very, very confident in who I was, you know what I'm saying? But I felt very well versed in these different groups. Like, I could talk about this because I knew about it. I could talk about this because I just felt very, very cultured in multiple ways, to where I just fit in with a lot of different social groups. And so I wish there was a moment that I could, like, well, this happened to me. I remember I was pushed down a fucking hill. Like, nah, like there's no specific moment. I think it's just a culmination of multiple things. Of you know, again, I think my father getting locked up when I was, you know, 14, and just going through that, and just not having an older male figure around, you know, did something to me. Being raised, you know, by the women around me, both older and younger, did something to me. Being raised by figures on TV did something to me. Like, and even like the ideology of love and the euphoria of love, and Disney movies, you know, fuck Disney movies, right? Like, the whole concept of everything's supposed to have a fairy tale, and like, no, go fuck yourself. It like all these like, it was like a lot of things raised me and formed the person that I am. I would like to say that I am, because I went through it, and obviously you start to pick and choose, like, what's real, what's not real. Okay. Like, but no, I think just, you know, just my human experience and my life experience just got me to where I'm at. I wish, I really do wish that I had a moment that I could be like, it was July 27th, 1995, and this is what happened. No, I don't. I wish I can, but I think it was just, man, just going through it, being made fun of, getting picked on, having success stories. Like, it's just everything, you know?
It's a journey that you embarked on, and that you were kind of aware of.
100%.
And I think it's beautiful that, especially just your experience of being able to be seen and understand in so many different social circles. I think that is a product of your sensitivity. I think the fact that you have access to connecting with people and allowing yourself to have that like barrier drawn is how you're able to show up and be seen and understood in different spaces. And I also I think it's beautiful, the fact that like you embody the duality of it. And I think there's a very like, there's a cemented view of what like a sensitive man looks like, and it's, you know, someone who like wears a beret and like plays like
exactly.
So it's very important to recognize that like it's part of just being a human being, is having feelings
Yeah,
and
yeah,
being able to address and be aware of them. And B, it looks like people who play sports and then drive fast cars, like it doesn't have to be this like thing that we've put in a box to know how to deal with it. So I think it's really
of course.
you know. And I also
Thank
think
you.
that the narrative is definitely shifting. We're not in a space where
It
like it's
is.
as, you know, so I think we are moving towards a space where like that is more celebrated more than anything else. I think that's really, really beautiful, and a product of you, honestly, a product of people like you living their lives out loud and not choosing to subscribe to societal
norms. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a beautiful thing to see unfold where
Yeah.
where quote unquote macho guys are becoming a little bit more vulnerable and
Yes.
seeing that like, yo, I'm not a bitch if
Yeah.
I share them. Like if I show any kind of emotional like
Oh.
that was once deemed weak, like I'm
Yes.
like I'm still a man
Yes.
if I have a moment where I'm fucking sad. Like it's
Yes.
a beautiful thing. I love this. I'm loving to see the evolution
Me too.
of that, because it's just like, hey, welcome to the fucking party, guys.
Yes, yes. It's also cool to just like be at an age where we can see culture shift. Like that's a whole other component of it. Like to actually watch this like norm, like take a different, you know, lead in it. I think I give all the praise to like these Gen Zers that are like coming out here. I feel like the way that they're expressing themselves is unlike any generation before them, and it's really brave and bold, and I'm just grateful to watch it and be part of it.
I want to stone cold stunner some of them, but
Yeah.
for the most part, like
Yeah.
they are really leading the change in terms of the evolution of, you know, I mean of society, but more specifically of men and the acceptance of vulnerability within men and transparency within men. And it's something that you know, I love. I tell my best friend all the time, my best friend Drew, I feel like this work that everybody's starting to recognize that needs to be done as specifically as men. I feel like, man, we've been doing it. Like we've like been doing it amongst ourselves for years, to where it's just like we see something, we see the evolution, and we're not really surprised, because it's just like we've been here. Like we've seen this happen. And again, that's not to say that we're better than or we're more advanced than anybody, but it's just like I feel like we recognized this shit early and jumped on it, because we were two individuals that for the most part, you know, didn't give a fuck. I don't want to say didn't give a fuck about anything. We were just very comfortable in who we were as men, who we were as individuals. And we were just like, yo, like this is our relationship. And a lot of what we're starting to see unfold is shit that, like I said, we've been doing for years. And it's just like, yo, it's for me, it's really cool to start to fucking see other men recognize like, yo, yo, fuck the alpha male shit, fuck the beta male shit. Like, yo, like how do we just be good fucking people in this world? You know what I'm saying? Like, even if you want to classify it, I think some men have alpha male tendencies. I think some men have like I feel like I'm part alpha, I'm part beta. And I just know when to show which part. You know what I'm saying? If you were gonna break it down, but fuck all that shit. I think like, yo, like I think the focus should just be a kind fucking human being. Fuck everything else. And it's just like I can't say it enough. I think it's just really amazing to see the evolution of the concept of vulnerability, specifically from men, and how more accepting the world is in society. It's like, granted, we have a long way to go. We have a long way to go. Yes. But we're seeing the early workings of where this idea and concept of accepting vulnerability from men is working. So I just love seeing it unfold.
Yeah, same. Honestly, the dialogue is shifting out loud, and I feel like self-awareness is now a thing that like what I assumed would have been common sense for centuries now, but at the very least, you know, it's something that's being talked about. And even not just outside of like embracing expressing and embracing doing the inner work and expressing looking inward, also just like expression has been really, really, really praised as far as like challenging what like fashion norms are. I'm seeing like just colors be embraced, and like just it's a really beautiful time to watch people give each other permission to just be themselves and to do so out loud, cry and process and love and
like everybody should be able to be whoever the fuck they want to do. I'm sorry, they should be whoever the fuck they want to be and do whatever the fuck they want to do, as long as you're not harming anybody, as long as you're not committing a crime. Like, yo, be who the fuck you want to be. Period. That's it. And that doesn't mean that I can respect you for your choices. Doesn't mean I have to accept you. No. I can respect you and just be like, you know what? I don't get it. I don't agree, but you know what? I'm happy that you're happy, and that's it. That's it.
That's life.
It's okay to disagree with people. It's okay to not understand someone's choices. There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. Yeah. But as long as you don't disrespect the person because their choices don't align with yours, or you don't agree with their choices, there's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. I think unity.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Unity isn't like looking like a uniform society. Unity is accepting the fact that there is diversity within us, amongst us as human beings, and just like kind of respecting it and allowing it to play out.
Absolutely.
Totally.
I agree.
The last question that I have, we've bounced everywhere.
The last question.
Which is actually like way less like intense as every other one. I think like I just like completely wanted to like
Oh, so you got all the fucking fire ones out the way, and now we're just gonna like, you're gonna just give me a softball. I'm just gonna toss
just like
it up
a
there.
Nice way, like a gentle leaf floating down.
Okay.
Because honestly, this is a question that I've been asking myself a lot, especially because we are in Pisces season, which obviously I'm an astrologer, so I'm really into this idea of like working with just the cosmic energy going on. And right now,
if whoever's watching this, get yourself a Pisces partner. Best partner I've ever had. Get yourself a Pisces partner.
Honestly,
that's all I'm gonna say.
I'm gonna be real with you. Yes, because they
get
have
yourself
like,
a
accessibility to love.
I'm not a big astrology person. Like,
no problem.
And the scenario I always present, I'm like, okay, so what if you're born on this day, right? Your birth certificate, you're born on this day, and that qualifies you as this.
Everything.
What if you really find out that you weren't born on this day, but then you were actually born on this day, and that makes you this sign? So then what? Then what's your excuse? That's the shit I always challenge. But whatever. I'm just. I think a
full-fledged identity crisis. But
yeah, exactly. But yeah, no. Get yourself a Pisces. Like, yes,
absolutely.
Best relationship I've ever had. 100%.
Yeah. We're in their season, honestly. I think one of the most beautiful parts of Pisces is just the way that they experience and look at love. And I've really been deconstructing not only just like my fundamental definition of love, but also the different ways that I experience it, and realizing that I experience love not even just relationally, right, romantically and platonically, but like I experience it in music and in food and in colors and in sunsets, and really like I've just shown
love is everywhere.
Love is everywhere and everything, and I've tried to be as present as I can with love. And so my final question to you is like, how does love show up in your life, and how are you honoring it in the way that you walk?
Man, look at the world through a lens of love.
Yes.
Look at the world through a lens of love. That's I'm getting it tatted somewhere. I think I'm getting tatted right here. Like, it was something that I love is I'm blessed, man. I'm truly blessed. I know we there are a lot of people out there that are struggling on multiple levels. I feel very privileged to say that I have love everywhere in my life. I have it within myself. I have it within my home that I'm building with my partner. I have it within my family. I have it within my friendships. I have it within my relationships with other creators that I'm creating music with, I'm creating art with. Like, I have an abundance of love around me, and I don't know if I can take credit for it. I have to give all thanks to God and the Creator. But I think it has a lot to do with just recognizing the spaces that I need to be in.
Yeah.
And that's where that self-awareness comes into play. And you know, we hear the term go where you're celebrated, not tolerated, right?
Yeah.
And I think there was a lot of spaces, you know, over the years that I was navigating in, that I was I was in where I was just tolerated and not celebrated. And I stayed in those spaces maybe a little bit longer than I probably should have, or I probably needed to, just because I was may have potentially been getting something out of it, right? But man, I recognize the love in everything. To the moment that I opened my eyes, to the ability to work out, the ability to share my mornings with my partner, the ability to sit on my balcony and see the sunrise, to hear the sounds of the city. Like we just said, love is everywhere and everything. And I recognize that. And I will admit, on some of my tougher days where I'm a little bit tough on myself, I have a hard time understanding that concept that love is everything and everywhere. I'm getting better at it, but man, it truly is for me. And I again, it starts with me. It starts with my outlook on things, and then, you know, again, just blessed to have such a loving partner that that feeds me in so many different ways. I mean, not only is she a great cook, and she feeds me in that way. That's 100%,
like actually physically.
That's for sure. Yeah, no, she's a Puerto Rican woman, and she definitely feeds me very well. But like, she just breathes life into me. And I just encourage anybody that's watching or listening, if you are going to build a home with somebody and you're going to lay your head with somebody, make sure that somebody is very, very sure of themselves, and make sure that individual finds the time and to breathe love into you on a daily basis and understands your love languages. And I really encourage everyone to learn those love languages of your partner and learn how they love and how they receive love. Because it is extremely, extremely important. Just because you can't expect your partner to love and receive love the way that you love and receive love. You have to understand how they love and receive love. And through that, you guys figure it out together. And again, I'm just so blessed and thankful that I have that I've, you know, through challenges, through love, through I guess you could say, you know, I know the word it's hurtful, but through failed relationships, I've found something that just feeds me on a daily basis, you know. But I also recognize that I need to find ways to feed love into myself. And it's around me. I just have to open my eyes a little bit wider some days than others. But it's everywhere. It's all here. And like I just try to be aware and be present. And because again, I think it's around a lot of us. Even in our darkest days, it's there. We just have a harder time seeing it. So again, just trying to be aware and be present to my surroundings in the moment, because for me, it's here, you know.
I feel the exact same way, and it's insane to like meet that realization and feel so comforted and blanketed by it. And in those moments when you kind of like not disconnect from it, but like you said, the darker days when it's kind of harder to see, it's like the sigh of relief when you come back to it, like the kind of the waves of like understanding that everything is love, and then kind of like just being chained to your own despair. I'm really grateful to be back in a place where I'm like, oh my God, because what like the peace that you find in recognizing that like that is the only currency that matters, and it's everywhere.
And if I can like just my spiritually, my the love that we receive from God, and just having that faith to know that although we can't see what is in front of us, we can't see around the corner, just having faith that what is going to be for us will be brought to us. That doesn't mean that we will be protected from negative experiences, negative things. That does not mean we're immune to it. I think it's just important to know that, you know, He's got us in every sense of the way, and just trusting that. And again, some days it's harder than others to understand that concept. But I'm just lucky to have individuals that remind me of that concept. And like this life shit it's you know, I'm gonna use a basketball analogy here. Basketball is a game of runs, you know. Every team goes on a run, you know, and that's the same shit with life. Like sometimes you go on a 10-0 run and you're fucking life up and you're like, yeah, what's up? Okay, yeah. And then life's star player checks into the game and it's just like, okay. And then life goes on a 15-0 run and it's just like, oh shit. And you're like, okay, how do I sustain that 15-0 run and push back? You know, like I have to go back to the drawing board and re-strategize. And it's just recognizing. And I don't think you could do that without recognizing the moment and just being present, you know? It's so important. It's something, being present is something that I'm trying to be better at myself, because I beat myself up over the choices I've made that have led me to where I'm at now. And just being mindful of like, yo, like you've already fucked up. Like you're not happy about this, right? Like, and that's a result of this. So how do you change that? Like, how do you break these cycles? And then the pressure of breaking generational cycles, like forget about it. So I've been doing my best to be aware of these things and what I'm trying to accomplish, but also knowing that I can't accomplish these things that I want to accomplish without being present and living in the moment and conquering the present, you know?
Yes, I feel the exact, that's like the exact space that I'm in. I feel like I'm like unnecessarily hard on myself, and I'm recognizing the ways that I didn't react or act upon what I thought was in my best interest. And so like now that I'm kind of dealing with those repercussions, I'm just like, but I don't know, committing to presence is really just disconnecting from just being so chained to what happened, which is only existing in our memories and where we're going.
Of course.
This in our imagination, and just like recognizing that like all I have is right now and all I could do is better, and just be intentional with my choices. So
that's life. That's it. Intention and intention is everything, yo. Intention and purposeful is like everything I'm on. To be intentional with my words, my actions. That's it's key. It's absolute key.
Certified lover boy is like all I'm thinking about right now. This was iconic, and I'm so
I'm really mad that Drake used that as his album title, because I have that in a song that's, you know, whatever. Now it's gonna be like, oh, I copied that from Drake, but whatever.
I mean, one could argue he copied it from you, so honestly, who's to say? Let's start the dialogue.
Nobody's gonna stop it. Nobody's gonna argue that. What the fuck am I compared to Drake? Stop it. Nobody's gonna argue that. Nobody's gonna argue that. Let's not play.
I'll be on your team.
Let's not play ourselves. Nobody's arguing that.
Well, with that being said, I want to give you the space if there is anything that you want to allow people to know as far as accessing what you've created and the art and the way that they can listen to and support you.
Yeah, for sure. So you spoke about the book earlier. So if you want to pick up a copy of the book, it's a really like large size book. It's like a 10 by 10. It's a good coffee table book, soft cover. You could go to haikusaboutYou.com to purchase the book from there. My socials, Instagram, Ledoux and The Broken, LEDOUX and The Broken. From there, you could just click the link in my IG bio, and from there you could find the link to my music and stuff like that. Trying to do a lot of things this year, trying to be more involved in community and giving back to the homeless community. Like this merch here, like I just had sold this merch in the month of February for my birthday. I had dropped this stuff, and 100% of the profits of everything that was sold is going to be going towards a community event where I'm still trying to work out the logistics, but ideally the goal is to prepare meals and hygiene kits for the homeless community, like the Overtown, Wynwood area. But even within that, we're trying to partner with some people to get mobile showers and haircuts and things of that nature. So we're working on that right now. Hopefully here in April, we'll be able to do the event. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, just trying to be more involved in giving back, because this world has given me so much, and the community has given me so much, and it's I feel like this innate desire to give back, because this is just, again, the human experience. This is what we're put on this earth to do. So you'll see a lot more of that from me this year, on top of music and other shit that I'll be doing this year. And I think that's expected, but just trying to go above and beyond that shit and go beyond arts and just really give back to the world.
Totally pour into something bigger than yourself. I think that's so
absolutely
commendable, and that's going to meet you back tenfold. So I'm so grateful. And I mean, obviously we'll talk about it after this, but if there's anything that I can be part of, I would really love that. So
thank you. No, absolutely.
Thank you. Every second of this conversation I thoroughly enjoyed, and
good luck editing this.
I know, right? We went everywhere.
Good luck.
But I'm so, it's exactly what I wanted and what I needed, and I think a lot of people need to hear. So I'm so grateful that you shared your energy, your magic, your mind, and yeah, we'll connect soon. For those of you watching, definitely support him. Obviously, I'll have your socials there. You can check
like on the screen, like here, go here. Here, go here.
The magic of editing, King. And yeah, I hope you all walk with grace, walk with love, and walk with presence. Bye.
Yes, thank you.